Hello friends, my name is Beros and welcome to my channel where I share with you tips, tricks that I read, learn and apply in order to become my best version. Now recently I took some improv lessons. The idea here was for me, given I'm an introvert, to do something which I am uncomfortable with in order to face my fears and eventually grow in the process. So apart from learning improv, I also learned some life lessons from taking those improv lessons. And in this video, I will talk about those life lessons that I learned by taking improv lessons. So the first one is a major and important rule in improv called yes and. The idea is fairly straightforward and simple. When you say yes to your scene partner's contribution, the scene keeps going. And when you say no, the scene just stalls. For example, if someone says, "Oh, our time machine is broken," you cannot say, "What time machine?" or "I don't see any time machine, you idiot." If someone does it, the scene just becomes about one reality versus the other, and the scene stalls. But if the scene partner simply agrees that yes, it's a time machine and keeps adding on top of that scene, then more and more details of that scene or that world that you've created fleshes out and the scene continues to grow. It's essentially a philosophy of acceptance, of moving forward to create together a world and a scene. So instead of me versus you, the rule yes and is a strong reminder to move past our conflict. And if we do so, our daily life will become more and more about creating those connections. "You're wrong" shuts people down. "I hear you, I understand you" keeps people motivated and they continue to build and connect and contribute. But even after saying yes, if we just keep nodding our head versus adding to the conversation will still stall. We have to add details and contribute and put our share of the effort in the conversation as well. With this, I've learned to never shoot down any ideas, rather ask how they can be improved. Instead of saying the idea won't work, I now say to build on your idea or to build on what you've said. It's important to keep the conversation moving forward, and that can only be possible if you make everyone feel valued. So the tip is, don't say it is bad. Show how it can be improved or can be done better. So another key lesson that I've learned is the power of listening and the importance of listening. Instead of you being in your head and thinking what is that you will say next, you need to listen to what your partner is saying. So we need to spend most of our time listening to our partners, the cues that they are giving us, the statements that they are making, so we can then take those statements and build a world on top of what they've already said. I have to listen super closely to incorporate my partner's details later and create a cohesive reality along with them. Real life should be like this too. If we hear and pay attention to what people are saying and contributing around us, we become better friends, partners and co-workers. And when you pay that attention and listen, you may start to pick some clues and patterns. It may be in your relationship, in your health, or even in your financial choices. And when you understand the patterns in life and in improv, you just start to play like a pro. Next lesson was about embracing mistakes. Now, the biggest fear that people have in starting improv, just like me, is the fear of failure. The fear of making a fool out of yourself on the stage in front of people. The truth is that messing up is part of the process, and at times it is as funny as the scene itself. For most people, the fear is so much that it limits them from taking the action altogether. What improv taught me is that there is no wrong answer. You just keep trying and keep doing, even if you see yourself being in the wrong place in the beginning. Just keep putting your ideas out there. Something you think is not good might be useful to someone else. It might be useful to your partner on the stage, and he can pick up on your mistake that you've done and make a scene out of it. Improv helped me realize that no one is angry when you make mistakes, and life is full of mistakes. And people are often worried about their own mistakes as against worrying about your mistakes. And hence, just keep doing and don't worry about the outcomes. And this brings me to the next lesson, which is the spotlight effect. When I did my first improv scene and we all came back after doing our improv scene, the instructor asked us, how did we feel? And I was the first one to raise my hand and I said the word disaster. It was a disaster. And everyone looked back at me and the instructor asked why. And I said, because I just flunked on the stage. I was horrible and it was a complete disaster for me. And all the participants who were looking at me were in a state of shock because they thought that I've done a good job. And with a serious voice, they started calling out, "No, you were pretty good. Rather, I was struggling, and then someone spoke saying, "Oh, no, you were pretty good. I was rather bad, I was stammering." And then another guy just spoke up and said, "I was struggling with coming up with anything and I was just blank out there. You were still better than me." It is at that point I realized that I am in a spotlight effect. I think that everyone is picking on my mistakes, everyone is looking at me. However, the case is that everyone is in their own spotlight. That is, everyone is in their own head and they're thinking that everyone else is watching them and thinking about them. While the reality is each individual is busy thinking about themselves, and hence no one is actually noticing anyone else except for the instructors. And it was that moment when I became brave, because I was like, these all participants in my class, they are all engaged in their own head, and hence it made me relax. And I realized that most of the time when I would make a mistake in my workplace, in my presentation, people would notice it for a while and then they would forget about it. But it is me who's carrying that mistake on my shoulder for days to come and just thinking about it. Oh, what are people thinking about me? Oh, that person must be thinking bad about me, and so on and so forth. Not realizing that they have forgotten about it because they have so many other worries to worry about, given they themselves think that they were in a spotlight as well, or they are currently in a spotlight for that matter. And hence the moral of the story is, be brave. Don't worry about what others will think. They will at best think of something around you for a moment and then forget about it and move on. And hence you should move on as well when and if you think your performance was bad or you made a mistake. The last lesson that I learned was being comfortable with uncomfortable through repetition. I remember when I first decided to do improv, I was like very scared, very fearful that how would I perform, how would I be able to deliver anything. And my fear always came with the physical sensation of those butterflies in my stomach. The reason I was uncomfortable because I was not used to being on the spot and improvising. But through hours of repetition, through classes over classes, I started to get over that fear. In real life, it's the same thing with anything that you're not used to. The first time will be uncomfortable, so would be the second, so would be the third. However, if you stick to it, you will slowly adapt and get used to it, and the unfamiliar will become familiar. It is the same case with my YouTube channel as well. If you go and check the first video that I posted on my channel, I still cringe when I see that video. It is horrible. However, with practice, and I am almost 80 to 90 videos in, I see a stark improvement in how I deliver, how I perform on the video. So even if you feel horrible in the beginning, just stick to it, keep your head down, keep repeating. Repetition helps make anything you are unfamiliar with familiar and easy. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this video was helpful for you to try things that you are fearful of, or even go ahead and try an improv class. Thank you.